Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Mayur. Just before I start, a little bit about myself. I'm professor at the Department of Mathematical Modeling at Kaunas Technical University, and used to work for oil and gas companies before. But I'm here primarily for talking about some of the research initiatives, and also specifically the point number 7, which is my role as a program chair for the Baltic Carbon Forum. And I'll speak about that in a minute. Just a general outline, I have two parts to my presentation. As I said, first is more related to my role as program chair for the Baltic Carbon Forum, and second one is related to a study that we did together with the help of some of the students at KTU, looking at the technology landscape in Baltic Sea region, specifically with respect to CCS. And I'll try to draw some conclusions based on that afterwards. So just some acknowledgements. I, as a program chair for Baltic Carbon Forum, I have to give thanks to BASRC, which is a Baltic Sea Region Energy Cooperation Initiative, which is sponsored by Nordic Council of Ministers and Nordic Energy Research. And thanks to their funding and support, we hosted in October Baltic Carbon Forum in Lithuania. So this was the 9th forum. It's an annual conference which takes place in Baltic Sea region. And a number of companies and of course universities came through to present their different initiatives on CCS. And you could see a number of companies here from different countries, including Lithuania, Poland, Estonia, Norway, Finland, Denmark, and also we had presentations from people from UK and US. Just to highlight some of the key presentations, just to highlight that how many companies are really actually taking some initiatives to actually explore CCS. I have one project which really was very interesting, was from Ineos Energy in Denmark. Their green sand project about taking CO2 and then sequestering it offshore. And then, of course, Schwenk, which is a cement plant, and I think that's already been spoken about. They're looking at a complete CCS value chain development. And there was also presentations made by Klaipėdos Naftas, on the CCS feasibility studies that they are they're doing, and also from Hug LNG, which is looking also at CCS initiatives. And there were presentations made by Latvia Energo, which is a company in Latvian energy company in Latvia. They are also looking at using, basically taking the CCS from the thermal power plants and the natural gas burning plants, and there were presentations from Polish research institutes, and also, of course, there was discussion from Civita about the CCS building momentum for CCS. So all these basically highlight one thing, that industries, there's a lot of will, and also in academia, a lot of will to actually do CCS. And I put some challenges here for you guys to read through, but the main challenge is that still there's a lot to be done in terms of the technology, research and technology development. And this is where maybe a lot of industries needs to come together. And I would like to highlight one particular aspect here, that although we talk about companies in the neighboring countries taking a lot of initiatives, but even in Lithuania, many years ago, Lithuania was among one of the first countries to do a CCS pilot. And of course, unfortunately, the law now does not permit, but I think there's need for these changes, because at least from the technological point of view, you can still continue to do the research and companies can still invest some money in this direction. And I think that's what is needed. Now coming to looking at the technology landscape. So one of the things that we thought about, if we really want to evaluate carbon capture and sequestration, one of the best ways to look at it is through patents. How many companies in the Baltic Sea region specifically have filed patents in the area of carbon capture and sequestration or utilization? And this actually gives us a very interesting overview of what's been happening in the region. So let's look at that. Basically, the objective was to look at about 11 of the countries in Baltic Sea region and look at all the patents that's been filed by universities and the industry in the period from 2020 to 2000 to 2020. And basically, we focus mostly on the main aspects, which is CO2 capture, transport, utilization, and development of CCS technologies. Okay, these were the main elements that we captured in this study. I will not preach about the CCS value chain because that's already been talked about quite a bit. But essentially, it's the idea is to capture, transport it, and bury it underground. That's the long-term plan. And for each of these aspects, we're capturing is there, transport is there, and either you use it for developing some product or bury it underground. Some technologies are needed. And when we look at these can be further divided into different aspects. I mean, we played with these kind of mind maps to decipher all the different patents which can be allocated to each of these categories. But it's maybe a bit too much for you to read, so I can just highlight it. For example, capture, when we talk about capture technology, it's more about innovation of CO2 capture from flue gas, which is coming out of maybe a cement plant. And transportation is more about transportation also costs you CO2. You're transporting it through trucks or anything else that you build will have a CO2 footprint. So can you reduce it somehow through innovation? And that's the other category. And then storage, of course, how can we have safe storage so that there's no leakage over a long period of time? So technology development and innovation is needed there too. And finally is utilization. If you want to make some products out of it. For example, there are companies, and you will see soon, especially Siemens and Mitsubishi, they have been investing in using CO2 for developing methanol. And this was also spoken in the morning talk by one of the plenary speakers. So when we look at this, so this is a spread of the different patent filings. So we looked at more than 3,000 patents, and in these four categories, roughly about 500 patents showed up, which fits into these categories. And this is what is known as first year of application, means you file a patent, then you have to maintain the patent. And when we look at this, you can see that around 2008, 2009, there was really a lot of patents being filed in this area. And it's unfortunate that since then, there has been a steady decline. And hopefully things will change now. But it shows, and most of the patents filed at the time were by these two companies, Mitsubishi and Siemens, because they were investing heavily into turning CO2 into methanol or some sort of fuel technology. And in fact, Siemens have also developed together with Maersk Oil a technology known as pure CO2 generation, where you can use, you burn the gas, and a special engine was designed to create pure CO2, which can be used for different industrial processes. Now, when we look at this spread during this period over the countries and also through the different companies. So here you see the list of companies, which includes GE, Mitsubishi, Siemens, and some other companies there. And on the right-hand side, you see the countries. And one thing which, it's again, this is data. I have not manipulated any data. This is what data is showing up. Some of the a lot of patents were filed by Russia, and followed by that was Poland. And it could possibly be that these companies were working in Russia at the time, and they had technology development and things. Russia does produce a lot of hydrocarbons, so that could be one of the reasons. But beyond that, the Poland and Norway had the most number of patent filings, and by these specific industries. And when we look at how many of these total patent files, how many are still active, about 85% of these patents are still active. That means the companies are technologically still working on these, or at least maintaining these patents for further use in future. This is a little bit comparison. On the left-hand side, you see more Baltic Sea region countries, and on the right-hand side, the worldwide countries. maybe for some of the audience sitting at the back might not be very clear, but as I highlighted, Russia, then followed by Poland, and again, the spread is similar. You have a lot of patent filings in 2010-11 period, and if you look at the worldwide, which is on your right-hand side, one thing is nice that actually Europe stands out as among the top, and followed by United States, Canada, and China, and then you have Japan and Russia and India, other countries. But again, the trends in all these countries are a little bit worrying because unfortunately there's been a decreasing trend. Only country which kind of avoids this decreasing trend is United States of America. They have still been actively, increasingly filing more patents, okay? And I guess this is more to do with the way the industries are more promoted, or things are a little bit more open in the United States, more pragmatic approach to do things, I suppose. And in terms of, if you look at the different technologies itself, out of these 4 boxes, capture, storage, utilization, so the most patents have been really filed in the capture technology side, which means how can you more efficiently capture CO2, either from thermal power plant, coal power plant, or cement factories and other things. And finally, this is a more detailed, probably, if somebody needs to, they can go through these slides, I'll share them. But it divides all the different categories, and you could see that the trends are quite interesting, with capture technology still leading quite a lot. So that means still there's a need to invest more in other technologies, especially transportation, because once you capture CO2, you need to take it somewhere, either for utilization or for bedding it on the subsurface. So, but the good thing is that when we look at worldwide collaboration between different areas, there's a lot of collaboration is taking place in this area. We look at within Europe, a lot of different collaboration is taking place between the companies and the universities. And when we look at in Asia Pacific and America as well, there's a lot of collaboration going on to develop new technology. So which is good news. I think it's promising to see that as well. And what are the challenges ahead? Of course, the challenge has been already spoken quite a bit about. There's a need to build a bit more momentum, I guess the thing is hydrogen is more sexy these days than CO2. But the fact is, everything that we use has a carbon footprint. And our generation is probably the one which has contributed most for this CO2 increase. And if we don't do anything, then the future generations will suffer quite a lot. And the challenges are, there's a need to invest in terms of research to understand, because one of the fear is that if you bury CO2 underground, then will it leak, and will this leakage cause some issues? So there's and so far, at least in Lithuanian context, the analysis that me and my students have done, the numbers that have been quoted are mostly, you could say, wet finger guesses. Not a very detailed study has been done, especially on the geological aspect of what reactions can take place and what can really happen if you store CO2. So those kind of more research needs to be done. But again, the current climate with the law doesn't help in achieving that. If I go further, what is the future? Well, future, I could say that does look a little bit brighter, because CO2 can be used for generating fuel, and that's a good thing. CO2 can also be used for developing different kind of materials as well. And good thing is that some companies are investing time and effort into that. And also there are companies which are coming up both in Europe and in America, which are looking at crystallization, where captured CO2 is crystallized faster into the subsurface so that it can be stored permanently forever without having potential for leakage. And at the other time, the companies which are also working on direct air capture, both in Europe and also in America. So hopefully, with all these, some conclusions to draw that that there is a need to improve the technology development in the CO2 space, especially CCS. And if we look at all the patents, Europe, good news is that Europe still dominates worldwide, followed by America and Canada. And especially two companies, GE, Siemens, and Mitsubishi, these three companies, they stand out, and they almost 80, they own almost, GE owns almost 78% of the all patents that's been filed. So the GE is investing heavily. With that, I think, I think I would like to close this talk, and thanks for your attention.